Hello, everyone, and welcome to the College Football Playoff semifinal episode of From the Stands College Football Game Day Show. We are into the meat and potatoes of the season. You made it through our first two bowl season episodes, and we are into the big boys now. The committee has made their selection. We have four teams on the docket here, and they are some good ones. So many so that there's been arguments as to who maybe should have been in this year's playoff, but we do have some good ones, and I got some good guys beside me yet again for the 17th week in a row. It is Mr. Andy Hopper to my left and Mr. Tom Scavetta from his lanai in Florida. He is on the road to my right. Boys, we'll jump right into it because these are big games and they deserve all our coverage tonight. So we'll start, obviously, with the first game here is the earliest game at 5 p.m. These games, of course, on January 1st. It is number 1, Michigan, taking on number 4, Alabama. The question mark team here. Some might throw Texas in there as well, but we also have the conversations as to who maybe should have been in the spot. But it is Alabama. It is Nick Saban's team here, squeaking in after the SEC championship win over Georgia, who toppled all the way out of the top 4. Another unseen event in the college football playoff, boys. Andy, I'll start with you on this one. There's lots to talk about here. Give us your thoughts on the game, and then we'll do and around the horn here. Then we'll go to our players to watch for this game. So, Andy, we'll start with you. What are your overall thoughts for this game here?
I mean, I think this game's going to be fucking awesome. I think the other game's going to be fucking awesome too. So there was a lot of talk, obviously, when these four teams were selected. And say what you will about Florida State getting left out, but this is an incredibly exciting field for the college football playoff. And I, for one, am looking forward to watching both of these games. I do think both these games are going to be really close. I think for me, the big thing that I look for is Michigan going to let JJ McCarthy throw the ball? Or are they going to rely on Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards in the backfield as they have for the majority of the season, especially against teams that they feel that they are superior to, bigger and stronger than, and that they could bully? Do I think Alabama's one of those teams? No, I don't. So I think they're going to have to mix in the passing game a little bit if they want to have a chance here. I'm excited to watch how Jalen Milroe responds and this Alabama offense, see what they can get going. But also two really good defenses coming into this game. So for me, it could come down to which defense makes a play.
Yeah, it's like you said. I mean, I don't want to keep harping on it, but I think a lot of people do think Alabama is a good team to put in this spot here. He could have filled in a lot of teams. It's such a shame we didn't have a 12-team playoff here this year, because that would have. I mean, just seeing how excited you were to say how close these games probably will be, and I agree with you. Just imagine if we had a 12-team playoff this year. Those would have been a hell of a slate. Tom, what are your thoughts here on the Sugar Bowl here?
It'll be
Sorry,
interesting,
Rose Bowl.
right?
Rose Bowl.
Yes, the Rose Bowl. Michigan, last I checked, they were favored by 1.5, despite all the controversy around their program this year. They're undefeated at 13-0. They deserve to be here. They blanked Iowa in the Big Ten title game. And, we dealt with the Harbaugh suspensions this year. Stallions, the NFL now wants to investigate, the NCAA, wants to investigate recruiting violations following the sign stealing scandal. But through it all, Michigan is here. They deserve to be here. Say what we want. The last year we were talking about how Cade McNamara was bad for Michigan. He couldn't get the job done. And I think even though J.J. McCarthy plays a conservative style of football and doesn't throw the rock a whole lot, he knows his strengths. And the Michigan coaching staff has done a great job of maximizing his potential. And they realized this year, different from last year, we don't need Blake Corum to run for 2,000 yards. It took him the bowl game to get over 1,000 yards. So, Brian, speaking regular season-wise, your prediction was correct. But what came with that was 24 rushing touchdowns. I mean, they know this guy will find the end zone. And that was the strength. That was the bread and butter of their offense. And they just had complementary pieces on each side of the ball. Roman Wilson with 11 scores. Colston Loveland was an option. That's a quarterback's best friend sometimes when they don't like to throw the ball deep a lot. And Chris Jenkins on the interior, I thought really stepped up his game this year. Junior Colson, NFL draft hopeful. Mike Sanderstill with those 5 interceptions. He was a ball hawk back there, and Rod Moore elevated his play. He was stuck behind some good safeties when he first started with Michigan, and now all of a sudden he's played really well. Quickly turning the page to Alabama, this team had the biggest roller coaster of a season. We went from saying that Bama may end the season unranked to them being a national title contender because of how well they flipped the script. And part of that is due to not just Nick Saban, but the development of Jalen Milroe and the strides that offensive coordinator Tommy Rees has taken. in that SEC title win over Georgia, they held UGA defensively to just 2.5 rushing yards on average per carry. So 78 total rushing yards they gave up. And it starts with the interior once again, Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner off the edge. Justin Bogby up the middle has had a phenomenal season. But I can't say enough about Milroe, guys. 12 rushing touchdowns to go with 23 passing. The one weakness for Bama this year was their offensive line. But when you get a mobile quarterback like Jalen Milroe that can stay healthy, it really helps your football team out. And Bama proved as well that they can be here. So I'm excited for this game too, in this drawn-out answer.
No, there's only 2 games, so we could talk about these deep dive as much as we want. I mean, I think all 4 teams are certainly worthy of that. It's fair to say. Yeah, I mean, as far as the game in general goes, this is probably the most controversial college football semifinal game we've ever seen. I know there's been some controversial teams to sneak in. I think Ohio State, after not winning the Big Ten, probably was the most controversial before this. But just in general, the fact that these 2 teams meet up just makes this such a controversial game in its totality. Like you said, Tom, this Alabama team, we did question them early, and for most of the beginning of the season, they didn't look all too hot for almost the entire first. It was at least, I think they had one good game early, but in general, the first 6 games, everyone was kind of, maybe not diving too deep into them because they didn't look as good as they typically do, but certainly asking questions about what was going on because something just didn't look right. But they did. They righted the ship, and then for a while they looked good, and then like you said, they went right back to their old mistakes against Auburn in that Iron Bowl. They just looked downright bad against Auburn. They're seconds away from not even being in the conversation to make it into the college football playoffs at all. And then you get saved by a last-second Hail Mary. So maybe fate is on their side this year. I don't know. Saban has maybe sold his soul to the devil based on how many championships he already has. So maybe just making it look a little close, like there's actual competition this year. But no, obviously the rest is history. They go on to beat #1 Georgia in the SEC championship game, and we can talk all we want about who does deserve to be here, but regardless, it's a very good team that we see here. So, and then on the other side of the ball, it's a team that's just been embroiled in controversy after controversy, and is one of the, I think, at least to me, in recent memory, the biggest cheating scandal in college football history that I can remember. I'm sure there's under the table payments for players before NIL that you could talk about, or I'm sure there's some steroid cases that have been swept under the rug. But to me, I think this cheating scandal, at least in terms of the public eye, is certainly the biggest one we've ever seen. There's a proven concerted effort to send a staffer to go videotape opponents' games and steal plays. So they bought the kid a house, flying him all over the country. And these 2 teams, as fate would have it, just happen to meet. But yeah, as far as their play, both teams played their best ball down the stretch. So you love to see that. Andy, I'm just as excited as you. I think this is going to be a really close game. Michigan ran a super tight ship. I think they were a little skittish last year, especially against TCU. Early in that game, they went down real early to TCU, if anyone remembers that game, and they were chasing all game long, and they just couldn't come back. This year, they look cool, they look calm, they look collected. They do go undefeated. So I think they've just got a little extra edge, but I don't know. The biggest stat for me, I think this could be a 1 or 2 point game in all honesty. But the stat that I was looking at is we all knew Saban turned this team around with the benching of Jalen Milroe. After that, he comes back and the team has looked red hot since then. But Alabama, I'm looking at their secondary. In their only loss of the season to Texas, their secondary got torched twice deep. And since that game, the Tide have only given up 1 40-plus yard touchdown through the air, and that was to Malik Neighbors in the LSU game. That's a hell of a guy to give it up to, so you can't blame him there for not keeping the slate clean. But that Texas game was, the 3rd or 4th game of the year, and since then, no deep balls. So I think it was Andy was joking, are they going to let McCarthy throw it? I don't know if that's going to matter much, because even if they do, Alabama's secondary, I think will have them locked down. So I don't know. This is going to be such an exciting game. I won't. We're going to do our predictions, our score predictions later, so I won't say who we think is going to win. But we'll jump into our players to watch here for the Rose Bowl. Andy, give us your players to watch for Alabama and Michigan here.
So for Bama, this is a pretty easy one for me. I'm going Jalen Milroe, Bama quarterback, obviously. 2,700 yards, 23 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions on the season. I'm taking him just because like this kid is coming in with a chip on his shoulder from his benching earlier this year to the way he's looked down the stretch, and just feels unstoppable at times. And especially, I don't know if you guys saw this, the comment he made in a press conference this week, about still believing in himself. He said, "Hell, my own offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, told me I shouldn't be playing quarterback." So that kind of fuel, that can really motivate a guy to come in and just absolutely ball out. So I look for Jalen Milroe to have a big game for the Tide. He is my player to watch for Bama. And then for Michigan, I'm going to go Roman Wilson. 41 catches on the year for 662 yards and 11 scores, like Tom mentioned earlier, averaging 16.1 yards per catch. I think if the Wolverines are going to win this game, they have to have somebody else besides Corum beat them, and Roman Wilson is one of their best threats, running routes and catching balls, obviously. So he is a player to watch for me for Michigan. I think he's going to have to get loose and make a couple plays. I mean, he scored 11 times. I like him to, potentially get in for another one here in this semifinal matchup.
All right, Tom.
So Michigan's biggest strength is Blake Corum. We all know that. So for me, for Alabama, I'm looking at their linebackers. I'm looking at Dallas Turner specifically. I think he needs to get into McCarthy's face. I think he has potential to blow up some running plays. So I'm going to roll with Dallas Turner here. I know he plays strong side linebacker as part of that 3-4 off the edge, but he can also drop back into a zone type of coverage. He's listed as a 5 tech on the roster, but he's capable with his size and length of disrupting throws and stopping the run. You want to stop Breece Hall. Chris Jenkins on the interior will have his hands. Not Chris Jenkins. Justin Bogby with those 7 sacks on the year will need some help on that second level. And Dallas Turner, highly regarded as an early draft pick in this year's upcoming NFL draft. You want to slow down Blake Corum, it starts with Dallas Turner and stuffing the run and getting pressure on Corum and McCarthy.
Yeah, for mine, I'm going to go with Jalen Milroe as well for Alabama. The big story here is his maturity since being benched. I brought that up, earlier. All eyes were on him during that. I think it was just a short stretch, just a game and a half, or maybe it was 2 full games. But he came back and he's been looking hot ever since. And that's just that Saban magic. I don't know. Maybe there's one other coach out there who I just can't think of off the top of my head. But Saban is like a diamond in the rough where someone has an awful time. They go into the shadows for a bit and they come out after a Saban, pep talk through a week of practice, and they just look phenomenal out of nowhere, just like fully recovered. So that's been a thrill to watch because he has been a question mark about his arm, about how he likes to run when he probably doesn't need to. But he's just played so well lately, and he's looked so much more in tune with the game, the rhythm of the game since that benching. Michigan's defense isn't one that's gonna be cheating on plays. They've looked really disciplined all season. I think the old Milroe before that benching, we probably would watch this game and see him force some throws, dart out of the pocket before it's necessary. But he's looked really poised. I think this Alabama defense can push through into the 30-point range that they'll need to win with the way that he's been playing. I guess I'll throw in an honorable mention here. I wasn't going to because Tom gave a linebacker pick here in Dallas Turner, but I was looking at Chris Braswell as well, just very quickly. He's got a really interesting stat lines: 8 sacks, 1 pass deflection, 1 interception, and 3 forced fumbles. But he's done all that with only 16 solo tackles, which I thought was really odd given the amount of playing time he's gotten. But watching his play, he's one of those linebackers that does really well to just read the play. He never overcommits. I didn't watch every game tape every game. Got to work the 9 to 5. But just from the tape that I did see, he seems really intelligent on knowing what to do, when to contain, when to not wait, when to help to not give up the big play. When to put pressure on. So yeah, he just looked really good on tape, and I'll throw him in there next to Tommy's guy, Dallas Turner. That's going to be real tough for that Michigan run game to get going with those guys. And then for Michigan, Andy, I'm going to play off of yours here because you want my guy to do big things to open him up. I want the same thing from your guy to open mine up. It's Blake Corum for Michigan. He did finally hit that 1,000-yard rushing mark in the Big Ten championship game. I think that nullifies my hot take, beginning of the season hot take, Tom, but thank you for giving it to me anyways with a regular season asterisk there. For me, it's Blake Corum. He's going to be crucial if Michigan want to win this game. He takes about 60% of the carries this year. They do have Donovan Edwards, but he does not get as much of the ball in terms of play selection. And he has 24 rushing touchdowns, Blake Corum. That's 44% of Michigan's total offensive scoring production. So, if he can't get past that second level there and open it up for the players to watch, like Andy's Roman Wilson, this could get ugly. We know Alabama's a team that's really good with the run defense, so I'll be watching that early to see how they utilize him and how he does against the Alabama D line and those linebackers. Because if he doesn't get going, we might see a blowout here. That'll wrap up some great coverage there, boys. I love it, of the Rose Bowl. And move into the Sugar Bowl here. We have number 2 taking on number 3. It is Texas taking on Washington. Again, January 1st. This game is at 8:45, so it'll be the second game of the day. Andy, I'll start with you. Give us your quick preview here for Texas-Washington.
Texas-Washington, another one that's going to be super fun. It's two really high-powered offenses, two really good quarterbacks with a ton of weapons. I mean, you look at Texas, you got Ewers, obviously. He's got Adonai Mitchell. He's got Jatavian Sanders. He is missing Jonathan Brooks in the backfield with that ACL injury, as we figured out today, boys. Tommy boy. And then on the Washington side, I mean, you've got Johnson, you've got Adunze, you have Michael Penix throwing on the ball, who, if you kind of watched him at that Heisman ceremony, when it was not his name being called, he did not look too thrilled, kind of similar to the chip on his shoulder type, thing I was talking about with Milroe. I think Penix comes in with a similar feeling to this game. So this is another one. I mean, I'm just rooting for points in both of these games. I just want to watch a good game, fellas.
Yeah, I think this one of the two certainly will have more points if I was going to guess. Tom, give us your preview here for the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, on paper, this is the game that people are like, oh, it's the complimentary game. It's not the, Class 1 game. But this game is going to be phenomenal. Texas's only loss to the year was Oklahoma, and they won the Big 12 title over Oklahoma State. They are an offense that averages 36 points per game, and they could run the rock. Even without Jonathan Brooks, who had 100-plus rushing yards in 6 games this year, C.J. Baxter has done a great job filling in the holes. Nearly 600 rushing yards on the year with 4 touchdowns. He's done a fine job replacement wise. And then you have Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. Both of these guys have been around for a while now. Worthy in particular, both slightly under 1,000 yards. 15 combined touchdowns, and then Jatavian Sanders over the middle has been a good tight end for them this year. Now, over the last 3 weeks, I just talked about their offense, right? With Quinn Ewers at quarterback, phenomenal offense. They pass the ball well. They run the ball well. But what got them here, guys, was not their offense. It was actually their defense. They've improved substantially over the last 3 weeks. Longhorns have 3 players with 3 picks, Terrence Brooks, Jaron Thompson, and Michael Taff. But, guys that were there all year doing their thing. Byron Murphy II got even better as the season progressed. Ethan Burke, Jalen Ford, you name it. These guys were all over the field, and it's going to be tough for this Husky team to match up, in my opinion. Washington plays in the Pac-12, or did, I should say, 5-0 against ranked teams this year, not including Arizona, because at the time they played Arizona, they were not ranked. They are now. So if you want to throw a 6th asterisk in there, that's fine. But they beat Oregon twice. Oregon State, now granted that's ukulele, but they're still a ranked team. Utah, and then USC. Now, here's me playing devil's advocate to them being 5-0 against ranked teams. What have you done for me lately, Washington? You've won each of your last 3 games by 3 points or less. That's a very minimal margin. They have not been as dominant as any of the other 3 teams in this college football playoff. Yes, they haven't lost, but there have been games this year where Penix Jr. hasn't looked through great. Yes, with Washington's style of offense, the quarterback is not going to be held back. That's why he threw for 4,200 yards and 33 touchdowns, but also 9 interceptions. You guys get what I'm saying? You can't really carry that 9 interception total with a lot of weight because of the style of offense that they play.
Right.
But, you have Dylan Johnson on the ground, who's been phenomenal for them. And then his receivers are outstanding. Adunze, Polk, McMillan. My concern for Washington is their defense. They have 0 players with more than 5 sacks, and they don't really have too many game-changing type of players. They have a couple players with a few interceptions, but overall, compared to Texas's defense, it's definitely subpar. So that's my initial thoughts.
Yeah, for me, like I was mentioning in our pre-show, it's weird to see how heavily favored Texas is. I think that what you just brought up about Washington's defense, Tom, is probably the big reason here. People are probably looking at the Texas team and seeing a more well-rounded team on both sides of the ball, and thinking that that probably will hold up here, because Washington is undefeated, something Texas cannot say. But late down the stretch, they've kind of been surviving. They've been on our shots and chasers for a few weeks here, and obviously during the conference championship game, and they're just edging out wins. But they are wins. So I mean, listen, they beat. I don't want to say that that's too bad. Like I said, they're undefeated. They beat a very, very good Oregon team twice. They beat USC and Southern Cal. They went to Corvallis and beat Oregon State. And you finished 13-0, so you can't really ask much more. I mean, that's not a dig at Florida State, because they did all they could as well. But Washington gets the benefit of the doubt by having beaten a top 10 Oregon team twice. So that's the way the roll of the dice sometimes. But yeah, I think a big piece, obviously, like Andy said, Jonathan Brooks is out, as we confirmed about an hour ago when we were doing our parlays. But you look on Washington's side of the ball, they've got Coach of the Year, Kalen DeBoer. He did a fantastic job last year, as well. But this team, similar to Michigan, they look a lot more grounded. The games have been close, but at no point did I watch Washington in those close games and think they're panicking. So the score lines look close, but I don't think there was any moments where you thought this team is a fraud. So to me, both teams here are very, very good. As far as the matchup goes, they're running it back. This game happened a year ago. I know it's not a popular bowl, but the Alamo Bowl, that's where these two teams met just 1 year ago. So it's not like they are coming into this game blind. Excuse me, they've seen a lot of these players before, just last year in bowl season. We talked about the Brooks injury. Obviously, I think Tom, you brought up CJ Baxter doing a hell of a job filling in. And yeah, between him, Jaden Blue, and Keelan Robinson, they've taken turns, filling in that gap in these 3 or 4 games without Brooks. They went for over 300 yards and went over Texas Tech, and 200 against Oklahoma State. So they've done a heck of a job filling in for the number 1 running back who won't be playing with that torn ACL. But I think I still don't know who I'm going to pick here. But my key piece, which is weird because he's not my player to watch, is Quinn Ewers. You look back at that game last year, and he threw for 369 yards last year against this Washington defense, which I don't know if you can watch them and say that they've improved from last season, maybe a tiny bit, but I mean, Quinn Ewers has probably improved just as much, if not more, in that same 365 days. So yeah, it's gonna be rough, them trying to contain Ewers, because he's looked really good all season. That was his career high at the time, that what he threw against Washington in that game. I think he just broke it actually in the title game this year. He went for 452 and 4 touchdowns against Oklahoma State. So yeah, this is going to be a heck of a game to watch. I'm kind of more excited to watch this one. As Andy says sometimes, points. Put it on a t-shirt. That'll make this game a little bit more exciting, I guess. But two great games here. We'll jump into the players to watch for this one. Andy, give us your players to watch for Texas and Washington.
So I'll start with Washington. I'm going to go Rome Odunze on the outside. 6'3", 215 pounds. It's a prototypical number 1 receiver. 81 catches for 1,428 yards and 13 tutties on the year, boys. 17.6 yards per catch. I mean, you get this guy out in space, and he's an absolute problem. You bring the cornerback up for press coverage on him at the line, and he is going to run right by them. He has just been one of Phoenix's favorite targets on the year. He's coming off an awesome offensive performance in the Pac-12 championship game. 8 catches for 102 yards against Oregon in that 34-31 win. So he is my player to watch. I think, Texas, you really gotta bear down on this guy. This is his second straight 1,000-yard season. Receiving. Last year he only had 7 touchdowns, though. He's almost doubled that with 13 on the year. I like him to get another one in this semifinal game, boys. And then on the Texas side of the ball, sorry, Tom, Jatavian Sanders, I'm taking the tight end. He is also coming off an awesome game in his conference championship, in the actual Big 12 championship against Oklahoma State. 8 catches himself, 105 yards and a score. Only his second touchdown of the year, which I would not have guessed that if you had asked me that before, doing my research into this and when I picked him. But 39 catches for 607 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is just a security blanket for Quinn Ewers. He can drop out and, if Quinn Ewers needs to check down, or he can attack the middle of the field, and he's done so really well this year, averaging 15 yards per catch. So he is a big play threat. He's 6'4", 243 pounds. Hello! We have an absolute brick shithouse lining up at tight end for the Texas Longhorns. Anywhere's number 0, too. So he's a tight end, but he's swaggy. So those are my two players to watch. I think both have potential for big days catching the ball.
All right, Tom, give us your players to watch.
Thanks, Andy. I'm gonna tip my cap. That's all I could do. So for Texas on this one, I'm rolling with chalk choice, Quinn Ewers, and the reason why, I think this game is a quarterback matchup on both sides. I think the two best quarterbacks currently in the CFP are on these two teams respectively. I mean, Ewers this year was great, but he'll play an even more pivotal role now with Jonathan Brooks being out, unfortunately with the torn ACL. So CJ Baxter has put up very respectable numbers, but ultimately you want to trust Ewers to get the ball to Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, who I think scores 2 touchdowns in this game, and then the aforementioned Jatavion Sanders. But I think Ewers is going to go off. I think he throws for at least 3 touchdown passes, if not more. This Washington defense is the worst defense out of the 4 teams remaining. So that's why I'm going with Quinn Ewers. I'm looking to see, can he break the bank in this game? I think he will. On the other side of the ball, I hate to do this, guys, but it's Michael Penix Jr. I mean, I'm going with both the quarterbacks here. I mean, this is kind of a boring answer, but the reason why Penix Jr. has kept them in games this season, he really has. And I want to see what he can do against this much improved Texas defense. I mean, I'm looking at Murphy II, Sorrell, Burke, Hill Jr., Ford. All those guys on that front 7 can cause havoc. This Washington offensive line has graduated a couple guys over the past couple of years. Troy Fatano is still there. So let's see if he can lead that group to offset this rush to allow Penix Jr. time to deliver the football. I think each quarterback throws for a couple touchdowns at least in this game. And if Washington has any chance of winning this football game, Penix Jr. will be the reason why. So that's my player to watch for the Huskies.
I like it. Well, I'll stay a little boring with you. I'm going Penix Jr. for my pick for Washington as well for all the reasons you just said pretty much. This is the Maxwell Award winner heading the offense for Washington. He's racked up 4,200 yards of offense, 33 touchdowns against just 9 interceptions. He's looked cool, calm, and collected, as I said earlier. The whole team has, but he is their guy this year, and that's been very evident. The best against the best defenses that he's faced, that being Oregon twice and Oregon State, 2 of those games on the road. He's gone for 750 yards and 7 touchdowns, I think, which is 2 interceptions. So, when you want to compare them, Texas will probably be. I don't know if I would put Texas's defense above Oregon's, so they'll probably slide right in the middle there. But those stats from Penix in those 3 games are why he's the top passer in all of college football. He's just done a heck of a job. His production has been really good, and they're really going to need to lean on him if they want to win this game. For Texas, for me, I will not go with the dual quarterback here. I'm going with T'Vondre Sweat, lineman for the Longhorns. Again, another award winner here in this game. He was a 2023 Outland Trophy winner, 42 tackles, 17 solo, 8 of those for loss, 2 sacks, and 4 pass breakups. He looks really good on the defensive line. He never overcommits. Again, I'm not going to lie, say I've watched every single game of Texas, all his tape, but what I have seen, exactly, filthy casual over here. But what I have seen, he's looked really good, and they have given him the words to prove that is the case. This Texas defense that he sort of heads up here with their star defensive line has only allowed 20 points or more 5 times this season in a conference that is known for its point scoring. It's held 5 teams to 10 or fewer. So this is a high-power offense they're going up against here with Washington. You need the guys like T'Vondre Sweat to really show up and have the game of their life. And I don't think they're going to keep Washington under 10 points or anything. But for a team that averages 40, 50 points a game, this is the type of D lineman that you want on your team to keep this score low, so your defense can kind of show out, and get you some points on the board. Dylan Johnson, we talked about the running back for Washington. He doesn't just get most of the carries, he gets just about all of the carries, over 62% of the running back carries going to Johnson. That defensive line led by Sweat, that's going to be the matchup overall for me to watch. If Johnson can't get going, it's all going to be on Penix's shoulders, which I think he could still handle probably. But as a coach, I'm sure Kevin DeBoer does not want to rely on that happening. He's going to want to open up the playbook with the run and pass game. So I'm going with Sweat as my player to watch, see how that D line can hold Johnson here. And that'll bring us into our predictions. We'll jump back to the early game first. Score predictions. Andy, I'll start with you. Give us your Rose Bowl score.
Oh man, I think this is going to be really tough. I think it's going to be really close. Vegas thinks it's going to be really close. It's essentially a pick 'em at this point. I think as of this recording, Bama's what 1.5 point underdogs.
Yes.
Man, Nick Saban as an underdog in the college football playoff. Like, where have we seen this before, fellas? I'm gonna go with the Tide. I really do think they beat Michigan, but I think it comes down to it, folks. I'm gonna go 28-27 Alabama over Michigan in the Rose Bowl.
Oh, that's a super close one. Tom, give us your score prediction for the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is going to be a close game. Milroe has proved his worth. McCarthy has been so-so. I think he's been above average this year. I like what I've seen from him majority of the time. So I think both of these offenses will be able to put up points, but ultimately I think Bama does it a little more. So I'm going to roll with the Tide here. Final score, 24-20. Bama beats Michigan, advancing to the CFP final, and Connor Stallions will rejoice.
Yeah, I like how these are all close. This is certainly the one on paper that looks like it'll be the closest of the two. I'm going Alabama as well. I do think they have the slight edge, despite the loss and the fact that they're the 4 seed. I think they're the better team for me. And score-wise, I'm also going to go pretty close. And I love a good storyline. Alabama's last 2 wins of the season over Auburn and Georgia. They won 27-24. So I'm rooting for the three-peat here. Roll Tide 27-24 over Michigan. And that'll bring us to the score predictions for the Sugar Bowl. Andy, starting with you again. I'm assuming you're going to have a higher score line here for us on this one.
Yeah, tad bit higher. I mean, this one again, like these games on paper, they are absolute bangers. It remains to be seen what will happen, when they actually play. But I'm expecting this one to be a high-scoring shootout. I think Texas is going to win. We have Texas and Bama, a rematch in the national title game, folks, and the national media and everybody will go absolutely insane. The NCAA will make $1 billion off these two teams being in the fucking national championship game. But I think Texas beats Washington 42-35.
I like it. Tom?
Yeah, 2 elite quarterbacks, 1 Heisman finalist. I think Penix Jr. and Ewers will have phenomenal games. Kalen DeBoer, phenomenal season. Sarkisian's done his thing. The over will definitely hit in this game. This will be a higher scoring game. I mean, the quarterback play is just strides better. So I'm also going to roll with Texas here. My final score prediction, 38-33. Texas beats Washington.
I like it. So all 3 of us are picking over the over here. I do agree that Texas is going to end up this game with 38 points. But I'm going to go against you guys here and pick Washington to win the game 41-38. And I like, again, a good storyline. I almost want to call overtime, a field goal in overtime. College kickers, you love it. But I think it might just be a very late field goal, not quite a walk-off in overtime. But let's give it under a minute to go. That's as far as I'll go. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just not seeing something. But I like Washington. I guess I would just like the storyline here. But yeah, Texas will probably win. And that'll bring us into our parlays here. If you just came for the semifinal preview action, you can hop on out of here. Don't leave before hitting that like and subscribe button for our boys links as well. Andy and Tom's shows down in the description. But we will jump really quickly into our parlays for these 2 games. Andy, give us your parlay here.
Yeah, first of all, I want to give a shout out to your parlay from the last show. It is still alive. What a sweat.
Fingers
the
crossed.
Ultimate under sweat in the Oklahoma-Texas A&M game. Would you hit it by a point?
Yep.
50 under 55, and the total ended up at 54. I did not see the end of that game. I ended up falling asleep. I woke up. It was like the first thing I checked in the morning. And the first words out of my mouth were, holy shit. So But for this week, I'm going crazy, boys. It's one of our last shows, so why not just go absolutely insane? We all have very similar ideas here. With it only being 2 games, we got some player props. So I went all touchdown scores. So I have 4 touchdown scores for you, 2 from each game. I was wanting to do 1 from each school, but I didn't love the odds for some of the Washington guys, and I'm a plus sign Prince. So I want that juicy payout, my friends. So 4 touchdown scores, $10 to win $328.69. We will start with Jalen Milroe from Alabama, plus 100. Next, we will go Roman Wilson, Michigan, plus 190. Coincidentally, my 2 players to watch in that game. Adonai Mitchell from Texas, plus 110. And rounding it out, Jatavian Sanders, plus 180 for Texas as well. Plus 3,286. $10 to win $328.69. Nice, boys. Like I said, I was going to pick Adunze, but it was like minus 145 for him to score, which maybe I guess I'll take plus 2 touchdowns or something like that. But I was looking for some guys, with a little bit better odds to score. And I do like all these, and I think they're all worth a sprinkle as, just taking them straight up as well. But yeah, I'm going crazy for one of the last ones, boys.
I love it. High odds, high payout. And we will give a shout out here to FanDuel. FanDuel, if you're watching, give us a little sponsor because we hate DraftKings, or at least I hate DraftKings. In our pre-show, they're just giving us terrible odds here. Trying to cut our payouts, but our man Andy here got us in all on FanDuel, where the payouts were much, much better. Sponsor code down below. No, I'm just kidding.
Seriously, we need it.
All right, Tom, give us your parlay here.
Yeah, shout out Andy. Appreciate you for getting us in there. So Bama money line for me. I think Bama wins, as we predicted on the show, and I believe they had plus odds at this time, so why not? My next 3 are touchdown scorers. Blake Corum, my Michigan player to watch, touchdown scores. He had 24 this year in 13 games, so odds are he will score. Jermaine Burton from Alabama, the leading receiver in touchdown receptions from Milroe. I thought Milroe was a little too obvious, and I already went obvious with Blake Corum, so I wanted to go a little less obvious here on this one and pick Jermaine Burton. Finally, Adonai Mitchell. Can I say no more? Guy's been a beast all season long. I think he scores 2, but I felt comfortable putting him down for 1. That came in at plus 110, as Andy aforementioned, and it is plus 1741 in the odds department. $10 for 184.15.
I love it. A lot of, as much as we said that the Alabama-Michigan game was going to be close, I feel like we all put a lot riding on that game for a lot of guaranteed anytime scores here. So we'll see how that plays out. Quickly running through mine, I went with a 5-team one, still ended up with, I think, lower odds than everyone here. So I guess shows how safe I went. Alabama money line plus 108. Like I said, I think they're still the slightly better team despite the loss, despite sneaking it at the 4 seed. Jalen Milroe, along with Andy. Tom faded him for being the obvious pick, but I think he just saw me and Andy picking it, and since Tom has the only winner this season, he probably knows that one's going to screw us. But plus 100 there. Washington plus 4.5. In our preview, I picked him outright, so might as well take a few points in case they lose on a last-second field goal here. That's minus 115. Adonai Mitchell, anytime touchdown for Texas at plus 110. High-scoring game. He's got the most touchdowns there for Texas through the air. I think he snags one from viewers. And then Texas-Washington over 58.5. I think all of our score predictions, had that total going over, so liking those calls there. That's the worst odds at minus 178, but combine them all into the parlay, and our boy Andy got me a plus 1678, $10 to win 167 and 80 cents. That is going to wrap up our playoff show. Love the coverage, boys, and I'm going to love watching these games, as I'm sure most people at home will. These are some great matchups here. We do have one more show left, and before we go, we're going to give our way too early predictions for the final now, and then we can compare them in our next show to see how we did here. So, Andy, who do you think will win the college football championship?
Give me the Longhorns, boys.
Oh.
Texas is back. Texas is back.
All right, Tom, give me your college football champion.
I might have said this on the show 2 years ago, but you might want to invest in VHS tapes if you like Texas. I'm rolling with Bama here on this one. I like Bama over Texas in the final.
All right, yeah, I wish the storyline for Washington is so good. My final, Alabama versus Washington, but I'm going to be the Scrooge here and pick Alabama for the reason My UCF Knights claimed a national title while not being in the title game. FSU can do the same here if and only if Alabama wins it all, because they will be the 4 seed team that got in over them, who many argued did not deserve it. And I think FSU, if that happens, in at least one of the polls, will poll at number 1, and we will see shit hit the fan. And I love to see that. Let the chaos ensue. But let the playoffs ensue for everyone at home. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. Like I said, like and subscribe down below. Mr. Andy Hopper's shows. There he is to my left, down in the description. Mr. Tom Scavetta, as he chills on the east coast of Florida on that very comfortable lanai. What is it, a brisk 60 degrees there right now, Tom?
Yeah, it is pretty brisk and a short sleeve on.
So. Yeah, there
Or
you go.
It fucking snowed all day here.
Nice and comfortable, Tom, in my sunny state of Florida here. But that'll wrap up our show. Thank you for joining us. We will see everyone for our final show of the year, the college football final. Thank you, everyone.